Here we go. Let's do this.
Do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Hey, Wes. How's it going?
Yes, Brian.
How you doing, man?
Well, I mean, considering it is Wes-day, I'm doing great.
Is that what we decided? Wes-day? It doesn't sound awkward enough for Without Parole. I feel like if it's going to be a Without Parole thing, we have to stumble through it. It definitely has to be like Westness Day or something. It can't be simple.
Well, yeah, Westness-day.
Westness
Yeah,
Day.
I got thinking about that. Do we call it Wednesday? No, we don't do that. It's just Wednesday. So happy Wes-day, everyone. It is Hump Day. We can all agree on that.
Well, listen, if it's Hump Day and Wes-day, I hope that we can incorporate both of those things into the same action. It's going to be very interesting.
Every day's Hump Day around here.
since it is Hump Day around here, marry, fuck, kill. Lucky, Astrobot, Quill.
Oh my goodness. Quill. I wasn't expecting Quill. I was expecting you to say something else. Well, obviously, we're going to marry Quill, I would suppose. We have that emotional attachment.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to fuck Astrobot because obvious reasons. So sorry, Lucky. Sorry about your luck.
Oh no, so unlucky. Wait, I do like that you said obvious reasons, and I just went, uh-huh. Like we all know that like Astro is really good in bed because he's a machine.
Well, I could elaborate.
Oh, I mean, we got nothing but time, so by all means.
Well, I feel like one of the best things about the Astrobot title is the various different roles that you'll find Astro taking on as you progress through the game. So, being such a great role player, I think that Astrobot obviously fits into the fuck category here.
And I think that's all you have to say. Let's start the show.
Let's do it.
This is PSVR Gamescast Live, where we film live every single Monday, Wes-day, and Friday, right here on PSVR Without Parole. My name's Brian Paul from this channel right here. And this guy over here, Wes-day himself, Wes Dillon from Virtual Strangers, a.k.a. Lethal Weasel VR. How you doing, Wes?
I am doing very well, Brian Paul. How are you doing? How are you doing, cats? Are we all enjoying our Wes-day so far?
I mean, it's so much better now, man. You're making our Hump Day suck a little bit less. Wait a minute. I don't think that's what we want on Hump Day. We want more suck. You know what? Let's stop the stream and start over.
Abort.
This isn't going well.
Abort. Let's move on. All that Astrobot sex talk has kind of thrown us for a loop here, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think anybody disagrees with you, by the way. I think everybody's like, yeah, Lucky must die. He looks too much like Sonic or Miles per hour. Needs to die. We got Professor Lilith in the chat with the $5 tip. Says vote for your choice in the Discord. We will announce the April 10th and April 17th games this Friday before and during the Gamescast. Excellent. You guys are you're really getting ahead of the game. I like that. So yeah, don't forget that if you want to participate in Sunday's multiplayer meetup, which is thankfully taken care of by our good friend here, Professor Lilith. Make sure you join our Discord, click the link in the description, and get in on the weekly Sunday multiplayer meetups. Very good stuff. I haven't participated in a while because I'm really just a terrible person. That gets us caught up on tips.
I understand.
Yeah.
We're busy, man. We're busy, bro.
For sure, man. Somebody's got to play Lucky's Tale around here.
Right. So, speaking of multiplayer, I'm sorry. So here I go hosting again. I want to throw a call out there to the cats because I know you do have a few resident rec room experts. And as I recently explained on our channel, we're going to be doing an episode on location with Jimmy Bowers from NDreams. And I want to show him around Rec Room a little bit, but I'm not that familiar with the user-created stuff in there. It's all the official stuff is all that I normally do when I'm in there. So I'm open and begging for suggestions here. So if any of you out there who frequent Rec Room want to send a few suggestions my way, awesome stuff only, I would very much appreciate them.
We're gonna have to get an Ask Wes channel over on our Discord. Maybe one of our moderators who's listening right now can take care of that, and then that way they can just easily leave comments and questions for you in there, and that would be a great place for all of the Rec Room suggestions. Ask Wes.
Yeah, that would make things way much wheezier. Weaselly.
We got Loopy the Underground Game Cat with the €2 says, "Happy Hump Day. Astro is hot as hell." I don't know what can of worms I opened, but it's open, man. So bring it on. Astro's
bring on the fan art.
All right, man. We've got a lot of shit to talk about today. It's luckily for us, because we really wanted to do this topic, and I think it would have been really difficult to do this if there was a ton of news to talk about today. So luckily, we're taking advantage of this slow news day in order to talk about the thing that is all over the thumbnail. Let's talk about Lucky's Tale first.
Okay.
Right.
Deal.
Yeah. Can you tell this is just going to be like a off the rails episode, which is fine by me. Hopefully it's fine with everybody out there. But we'll talk about all those awesome indie developers in just a minute. But with Lucky's Tale basically launching tomorrow, and I just got my first impressions out there today. This is a game that you're way more familiar with, right, Wes?
Absolutely. When I first started on with PSVR, which was like late 2018, one of the very first games in my library was Lucky's Tale, because I did start on Oculus Rift CV1, and back then that was a pack-in game. This game came with the Oculus Rift. So literally, as long as I've been playing PSVR, I've had Lucky's Tale, and I've tried every VR iteration that has come out there, and yeah, I'm very familiar with it.
Okay, so first and foremost, I think I'm pretty sure you're able to kind of like reach into this world and interact with Lucky a little bit on other platforms, right? Is there just that much?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's all pretty much gamepad style stuff that you may be able to do a few little novelty things, but it's not like Moss or anything like that where you actually have an impact on the game. It's all just a few bells and whistles, if it's even there. To be honest, I don't know. I typically don't even care about stuff like that, but that seems right. It sounds right.
Okay. Yeah, it was one of the things that when I first jumped into the game, I tried it out with the DualSense first, just to see if you could play with the DualSense, and then I switched over to DualShock 4 to see if there was any difference, and there was no difference. That being kind of like bringing up two issues, I think, with the PSVR port right off the bat, which is you can't reach into the world and pet Lucky or whatever, which not the end of the world. I'd much rather be using a DualShock 4 for a platformer, and no big deal. I mean, like you said, it's kind of a novelty. Even in Moss, when you pet Quill, it's cute, but it's absolutely not necessary. And the other part of that is that there's no vibration in either controller. Like the DualSense is amazing, has amazing haptic feedback, and the DualShock 4 is pretty good on its own. And just running around this world with zero feedback, zero sensation coming from that controller, which is a little surprising. It just made that element of it feel a little bit emptier than it should have. So I don't know if I'm losing out, because I really never played this on Quest or PC or anywhere else.
Well, it did stand out to me a little bit. I never really made a mental note before of whether or not what kind of haptics it had in the other versions.
Yeah.
But it did stand out to me as a missed opportunity as I was playing today. Just for that reason, typically when you play a game on PlayStation, it has pretty good haptics because of the very capable hardware. So this game does run with DualSense. Did you say?
Yeah. Yeah. There's zero light tracking abilities in this game at all. Even when you pick up a bomb and you throw it at the target, that's all done with the head tracking.
Well, I can say on the other versions, as I recall, you do have some in-game representation of your hands, but I think it comes and goes. If you move your hands or press a button or something, it'll show up and then kind of fade out. It's nothing that really impacts the game at all. This is a gamepad style game on all platforms, And yeah, I kind of agree with you there's certainly a missed opportunity for enhanced immersion through haptics.
I always feel like haptics is one of those things that you don't really pay that much attention to until it's not there. And then you go, wait a minute, where is it?
Right.
Right. So if it's doing it well, then you don't even mention it in a review. You don't even talk about it. You don't even think about it while you're playing. And then when it's not there, you're like, oh, something is obviously missing right here. Again, not the end of the world, but you would think that if they were doing a proper PSVR port. But that aside, I was actually surprised because I'd heard a lot of, I don't want to say negative things about Lucky's Tale, but I guess I'd heard that it was just super basic and just a very straightforward platformer. And although I do think that's what we got, it's charming and it's kind of pretty. I like the art style and it's like crisp and clear and just sort of, not the most challenging thing I've ever played. It's actually pretty easy, but I'm just having fun. I'm just sort of enjoying the romp through the game. And I'm sure there's doing the time trials and stuff. There's ways to make it more challenging, but I was expecting it to be just kind of bored at the overall blandness of the thing, and I'm not. I'm actually really enjoying it. So having much more fun than I anticipated. Although,
yeah, well, it's one of those.
You've had it forever, so are you bored with it by now?
Well, I mean, I certainly could do without having to run through the first couple of levels. I've played those ones a ton. But no, it's a quality game from a quality studio. It's going to be one of these things where if platformers are your thing, you're going to dig it. And if they're not, you're not going to. And even, I'd even go a step further to say out of all the different platformers that are in VR, this one's probably the most Mario-like in terms of feel. Not really so much gameplay, but it feels kind of like a game that you would have played on your console 20 years ago, only now you're in the game, which is kind of cool, right? Because I don't know about you, but back then, this is the sort of thing I used to dream about, is being able to get in these games and experience them from the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially because so many platformers become puzzle platformers, right? I think that, as a platformer fan, too frequently you jump into a platformer and go, oh man, like this is going to focus too heavily on the puzzles. This isn't all that much fun. And I like puzzles. I just don't know if I like them in my platformers. I felt that way about Braid. I felt that way about a lot of like very, very popular games. And I'm just like, man, it's just that's not what I want out of a platformer. And so kind of just like breezing through this and just being like, there are certainly moments where you stop and go, oh, what's the best way to tackle this next area? Like for the most number of points, or to be able to get that coin, or to be able to get this object that's over here, oh, I need to jump on this guy's head and then do a double jump and blah, 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 whatever. But it's all platforming puzzle stuff. It's not like stop you in your tracks and here's a fucking puzzle. You're like, oh man, that's no. And so I think for pure platformer fans, you're going to find something like really enjoyable here, and get rid of the mentally taxing stuff.
Yeah, probably the best example of a pure platformer in VR. And honestly, I'm surprised that it has taken till 2022 for this game to come to PlayStation VR. Because, when I first played this on PC all those years ago, I mean, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. Like, oh my God, why is this on PC? PC players aren't going to appreciate this. But, the more casual gamers that you find on the PlayStation Network would love something like this. Yeah. So even though it is... a few years too late, in my opinion, I do think that this is a welcome addition to the catalog.
Yeah. 2 tips in the chat. Mash Daddy Cool with the $2 tip says, it's charming is the kiss of death for a game. LOL. I obviously disagree. I think that Astrobot is an amazing game, and Moss is an amazing game, but both of those reek of charm. And I think that's the selling point for both of those games, big time. Although I do feel like Mash Daddy Cool is trolling us a little bit.
Well, I guess you kind of need to know, this is something that we hear a lot about Quest games in our community. The ones that the PC players don't like are garbage, and the ones that the PC players do like are charming.
Oh, so that's how
we've heard this before. Yeah.
Okay. And then Looper, the Underground Game Cat with the €2 says, is this April VRAF? And the answer is, I don't think it's going to be VRAF. April's PSVRAF event, I was really wanting to do another one this year. I had such fun with the last year's, but it was so much work, and but all the pieces were coming together very, very like kind of perfectly. I was getting the more I was getting into it, the more developers wanted to be part of it, and it was working out really, really well. This is just like such a slow time for PSVR1 that like I think it would be pretty impossible to do a April's PSVR AF event this year. But if I can find a way to do a similar event later in the year, maybe when things are heating up for PSVR2, or if people are trying to get their projects out for PSVR1 kind of at the last minute before the transition, then maybe we'll find a way to do that. But thanks for asking that, Looper. So just overall,
I think go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that the coming of PlayStation VR2 is going to make the PSVR AF event epic when it finally does get here. I think that it's going to be. It's not just going to be a special in name. It's going to literally be pretty special. So, looking forward to it.
Let's hope so, man. I can't wait until until everyone's just allowed to talk about what they're working on, because I do think that there's a lot of teams out there right now who a lot of those teams will be talking about in just a minute, who are kind of excited to share what they've been working on for the last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 3, 4, 5 years. A lot of them have been in development for a while. But yeah, man, I'm sort of just getting started with Lucky's Tale, just to kind of put a cap on this conversation. But you've certainly played through it. I mean, did you get thumbs up, thumbs down? Where are you kind of at with this thing like in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it benefits from the fact that there aren't a whole lot of games like this in the PlayStation VR library. Surprisingly, now it does kind of suffer because obviously it's nowhere near like Astrobot, which is the gold standard for VR platformers on all platforms. But I think it's going to benefit here from being able to kind of be there for those platforming fans who have played Astrobot once, twice, 3 times, and really have nowhere else to go with it. Now you've got something to do. I would class it as a bit of a child's game. It is not difficult. Maybe the time trial stuff, a little bit of challenge. I like to find challenge in, trying to get all the coins. That can be very challenging because there's literally coins everywhere in this thing. Yeah. They're hidden in plain sight as kind of like invisible coins that you have to walk into an area for them to show up. You hit the light post, you hit the butterflies, you walk through the grass. There are coins everywhere. So if you want some challenge, try to get all the coins. And I haven't looked at the trophy list yet, but I got to imagine that there's some challenge to be had in there as well.
Yeah, it seems like it could be a fun platinum depending on exactly what trophies are involved. But yeah, I would say I would. So far, the campaign feels very much like a kid's game. So I am really hoping that those time trials and the red coin collection segments. Again, I'm gonna play the crap out of it tonight for review. So I'll know much more about all that tomorrow. But
a couple more things. I was very impressed, as I always have been, with the sound design here. I think it's one of the strong points of the game, and one of the reasons why it's so surprising that there isn't a haptic element to it, because typically the haptics and the sound go hand in hand, and the sound's so good, but like you said, the haptics aren't there. And with the levels, while they're all kind of samey, they do tend to get better as you go in terms of like art style. And, for me, a game like this that doesn't really have a lot of challenge, a lot of the joy in it is just being in these worlds and taking in the environments, the enemies, just the overall presence that you get when you're in a cartoony, charming world like this. And it does tend to get better as you go. So I would say if you're liking it so far, then you should probably keep going because it does get better.
Nice. Well, that's definitely the plan for tonight. So hopefully I'll have some final thoughts on it tomorrow, depending on exactly how long it is. I think most people in the chat were telling me it's around like 3 hours or so just to get through the campaign.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. All right. So nothing too crazy. Emily Baxter. I knew Emily Baxter was going to chime in on this at some point. The cartoony witch game kitten says we should get a platinum just for playing it. That's all I got to say about that. All right, man.
I thought you were reading her other comment here. It's muffled due to ball gag cereal, which I don't know what that means, but it is certainly hilarious.
Yep. We're going to let that one slide. So, guys, one of the things we want to talk about today was, we're getting closer and closer to the launch of PSVR2, depending on which websites you're reading and depending on who you're talking to. That could happen anywhere between Q4 this year, Q1 next year, or there was an article just published today that reliable sources are pointing to Q4 next year, which I think is about as ridiculous a story as I've ever heard in my life. I'd love to know who their sources are for that because I've never heard anything so crazy in my life. That being said, we're getting closer by the day. It's mere minutes away, as we like to say here on Without Parole. It's minutes away. I mean, it's a lot of fucking minutes, but it's just minutes away. So we want to take a look at some of these developers who have been, either prolific on PSVR 1 or just shown a lot of promise on PSVR 1, and really which ones of those we think are going to really be leading the charge next gen as far as innovative PSVR 2 games go, creative PSVR 2 games, or just solid PSVR 2 games. And of course, we want to make sure you know that this is not a complete list by any stretch of the imagination. There's so many good developers out there that we will not be talking about today. But we did want to kind of focus on the indie side of things because, I mean, you start going AAA and now suddenly that conversation is the entire video game industry. If we're talking hybrid games, every single developer on the face of the planet could potentially, we don't know this for sure, could potentially be making a PSVR 2 game. So we figured we'd talk about indie studios who have made PSVR 1 games that we think have some serious promise leading into PSVR 2. And I think the first one, I say we kick it off with one of the most obvious ones, and that's there's a reason that the raw data trailer has been playing for the last 2 minutes. Survios. Dude, okay, so this is why I love having you on the show, man, because I think we've had I don't know your perspective at all on any of the studios that we're about to talk about, any of the games that we're about to talk about. So you want to give me a little rundown of your thoughts on Survios? Why should they be on this list?
Well, I mean, when I first started really getting into VR and started learning who the studios were and who were making the games, I really felt at that time that Survios was the one really true standout that was poised to kind of be the leader as we head into the next generation of VR. Because not only do they have a vast library of VR games, but some of them are really good. They've shown an ability to land big, properties, IPs from the entertainment world outside of gaming. They have a lot going for them. But, if I'm going to speculate about where Survios fits into the next generation, the answer is I don't really know. Obviously, they're going to play a big role, but their games, in terms of quality, have been very, very much hit and miss. Yep. Obviously, Raw Data was good. Creed and Sprint Vector, both very good games. Westworld Awakening, I think, is probably their best game, and I don't think that one even came to PlayStation VR.
No.
But that was a very, very good game. But then you have, Battle Wake, which was just kind of all right. The Walking Dead Onslaught, I would class as all right, but I mean, they really shit the bed with that one, to be quite honest. That should have been a lot better. And then they took a lot of criticism for that, and how do they follow it up? With a Bubble Bobble game in VR. So
yeah,
I really don't know what to expect from Survios. I would class them among one of the studios with the most potential, but they're also one of the studios with the most potential to crash and burn. So I really don't know what's going to happen with them, but I am very interested to find out.
Yeah, they're a tough one to peg because, the reason I wanted them on this list was because I do think that their future is very, very confusing based on their track record so far. Because, as you've stated, they've put out some very, very good games. I think Sprint Vector and Raw Data are just phenomenal games, especially for how early they were put out in the PSVR lifespan. But then, it just seems so obvious that they were they were like downscaling the scope of different games. I think that the fact that they were putting out a Puzzle Bobble 3D game meant they were like, hey, we got to kind of weather this VR storm. PSVR is pretty much dead. We've got to make games for the Quest, and so they just scaled way back in terms of scope, and I think that Battle Wake actually had a lot of good things going for it. In terms of especially in terms of controlling your pirate ship or whatever the hell we were on, the boats. It felt really good. You're not just pushing an analog stick or holding a button to turn. Like, you're pulling up these big chains and everything, and that to me felt really good. And once you get the hang of it, like it. And it's always those kind of like VRAF elements where, like, yes, they could have just mapped it to a button, but instead they were like, oh, it's way more fun to pull these things like that. Those are studios that I feel like have some serious potential. They're the ones that that know what gamers want, even if they ended up making a really shallow game out of Battle Wake. So I know at one point they tweeted out that, that they are confident in, PSVR2's future, or that's, I forget exactly what the wording was, but it made it seem like that's what their focus was going to be. And so I do think they're just trying to weather this storm, weather this time where the Quest is in the lead, and you kind of have to scale back development. And also that's the same reason why they're making, why Puzzle Bobble had a flat screen version, why they made a flat screen version of Creed. They're just trying to like kind of make money while they can. I would be shocked if over the last 2 or 3 years they haven't been quietly making some really big next gen VR game.
Yeah, that would make me very happy. It's weird with them because typically when you talk about these indie studios that make VR games, and you look at the progression of their library, and you see a steady increase in terms of quality. Like the games typically with these indie studios get better from generation to generation to generation, or game to game, rather, I guess would be a more accurate way to put it. Mm-hmm. But with Survios, it's kind of been the opposite. But then again, they did have Westworld right in the middle there, which was very, very good.
Can you tell me a little bit about Westworld? Because obviously anything that didn't come to PSVR, I'm not going to have much familiarity with, and maybe our viewers don't either.
It was obviously it was fan service for the Westworld television series on HBO, and it's set during the first season, if you will, of that show. It features very immersive environments, almost photorealistic graphics, very good character models. It's one of those realism type games. It's basically, I would probably say it's a stealth game with some light puzzling to it. You're trying to sneak through and not be noticed by any of the baddies that are out to get you. And it's very, very heavily story driven. With the story that falls in line with the television series. It was just very good work. That game was the sole reason, well, one of the big reasons that I was so excited for the Walking Dead Onslaught. I saw what they did with Westworld, mm-hmm. and I'm a Walking Dead fan too. So like I was super hyped to have a studio make a game that shows not only that they're good at making VR games, but that they're aware of what the fans want. And I think that's a lot of things I didn't like about Onslaught was it just seems like they tacked on a few generic Walking Dead references, and it didn't seem like they had been watching the television show at all.
Yeah. And the fact that we know that they stripped out the multiplayer, that it was supposed to be a multiplayer focused game, and then it was just, you could tell like the single player just wasn't cutting it. It would have been a lot more fun playing that in co-op for sure.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, I don't want to speculate. I think we all kind of know why they may have questioned their decisions midway through development and tried to turn on a dime. But, we'll leave that conversation for another day.
All right. Which brings us to the next most interesting, as far as I'm concerned, studio to talk about when it comes to next gen. And that's NDreams, who, most recently, kind of blew us away with Fract. Although, did they blow us away with Fract? Was that your impression?
I love Fract. I didn't love, how much of it there was, and I was a bit disappointed that there are so many opportunities here to add content to that game, and like not just like the story mode, but other modes that they could add. I often cite the example of the skiing sections in that game.
Yeah.
Some of the funnest parts in that game were skiing sections. They could add like skiing maps with scored combat and online leaderboards, and they could basically double the content in that game with a very fun new mode. And I wouldn't think it would take all that much work on the part of the studio. So yeah, the moral of the story is I absolutely love Fract. I wish there was a lot more of it.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, to double down, I mean, like seriously, some time trial modes with, like throw in some zip lines, like you reuse big chunks of the level that you've already created, throw in some zip lines, kill, a bunch of bad guys. Boom, there you go. Time trials with leaderboards. Again, not much extra effort in order to kind of like pad the game clock. But what we did get was, I think, fucking beautiful. I think the art style proved that, like, not only do they have some talented artists on the team, but they also have some technical prowess as far as like really pumping out the highest possible resolution on the PSVR headset with some really stunning visuals, like some stunning environments. That game was just one of the best looking games I've seen on PSVR. And so, like, that game, the mechanics that they included with the cover-based system, and of course I always have to bring this up, that it's the exact same cover system as Crisis on the Planet of the Apes, which was a terrible game, but this is actually a good game that used the cover-based system well. Just adds that whole VRAF element to it. That is super promising for next gen. But to go so much further with this, it's like they've nailed cover-based shooting. They've nailed beautiful art design. They've nailed now with Shooty Fruity, like that game was just so ridiculous and sort of innovative for a wave shooter during a time where it's like everybody was sick of wave shooters, but still said you need to play this, right? And then going even further back than that, they brought us the Assembly, which was pretty damn close to a launch title. If it wasn't, no, it was after launch, but it was soon after. And the Assembly is, absolutely like my kind of game, where it's very point and click adventure style thing, very much a lot of puzzle solving, slow paced, whatever. And so I feel like this is a studio who's tried their hand at everything and sort of succeeded at everything, outside of like their Vacation Simulator Perfect. Outside of that, man, like I feel like these guys are batting 1,000. And where do you think that takes them next gen? Like they've done a little bit of everything.
Well, I'm happy to say that I don't know. That's the beauty of it, is that they've continually progressed. They've continually gotten better, like we were talking about a moment ago. Mm-hmm. They've clearly put themselves in the next tier. They're one of the top VR studios in the world now. And one title is vastly different from the last. And since you were going over the PlayStation VR catalog, that you might not be aware, but they did a title that was Oculus exclusive called Phantom Covert Ops, which was one of the more immersive games on that platform. And again, a totally original concept. It's a stealth game that you play entirely in a kayak. So you're exploring like a flooded base, and you're paddling, but there are stealth sequences there. It's a shooter, like any good stealth game. It could all go to shit, and then you have to shoot your way out. But a completely original idea, one of the best games on that platform, just like Fract. And just like Fract, really the only complaint about it was that it was too short. So really, my biggest hope for NDreams going into the next generation, especially now that we're hearing about all this new funding that's coming into the studio, I want a full feature-length game from NDreams. That's what I expect from them. Just maintain the level of quality that you have right now. You know that they're going to find new, innovative ways to use the haptics, to use the eye tracking, and give me a full-length game. And I'm sure it'll be one of the best games on PlayStation VR2. I'd be willing to bet on it. Yeah,
me too. I got to work my way through the tips to get to the one that I want to talk about. So starting with Nihilus, riding the game feline with a $5 tip, says, happy Wednesday. Just Nihilus Ryan just for a Wednesday. I'm sorry. Keep it charming, gents. Thank you so much. I don't know how to take that. Now that we know the full meaning of charming around here, Digital Grizzle with the $1 tip says nothing, but we love you, Digital Grizzle. Thank you very much. Et.2k9.now with the $5 tip. Here we are. Says, what if Frax was just a taste of a larger game they're cooking up for PSVR2? Now, I kind of hope that, I kind of hope that it's more than even just that. I kind of hope that they're creating this full-fledged experience, because anytime I've read about Phantom Covert Ops, that's the trailer that's playing right now, people always kind of refer to it as Metal Gear Kayak, right? And I was like, that's funny, because that's cool that you have to infiltrate this base and whatever and kill a bunch of guys while you're in a kayak. And then I kept reading and watching video reviews and more footage, and I was like, wait a minute, you never get out of the kayak? Like, what the hell? And so I feel like with every NDreams game, they've like nailed the thing they're going for, but then they don't do anything beyond that. And so my real hope for NDreams is kind of exactly what et.2k9.now said, is that they kind of merge all these things together, and they like, how cool would it be if like you're going down a mountain on skis, then you get out on foot, and then you jump into a kayak, and then you go over here, and then you're doing this, and you're shooting these things, and it just feels like they have made really great elements of a much bigger AAA game. Now they just need to shove it all together into one big, crazy, over-the-top espionage, like stealth action game. And it's like they've already done the hard work of figuring out how all these things are gonna work separately. Now they just have to mash them all together. I think they could do it.
They absolutely could do it, and it's just a question of how much time do they want to put into a development cycle and how much funding they have, and we know the funding's there now, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just up to them, up to the heads of that studio. I'm sure that the artists on the ground level really want to sink their teeth into a project like that. It's just up to the suits to let them do so, and I think they will. I think that they want to be counted among the very best in VR. And if they keep giving us 3-hour experiences, then I think that they're going to kind of get knocked down a notch. And the good thing is they're not just making one game. We know that they're doing 2. So they could be working on some kind of thing in the Fract universe and still be doing some other kind of big blockbuster adventure game as well. I'd be really interested to find out. And I'm going to ask him this weekend. So,
well, Jimmy Bowers, man, that guy is a vault. You can't get any secrets out of him.
I know it. I know.
But that being besides the point, that NDreams is certainly a studio, one of the many studios who've sort of gone on record being like, we have a AAA studio for next gen VR games. Like, that is their goal. And along with Cloudhead Games, along with who else, man? Like Firespray. I mean, it just seems like a lot of studios have been using this terminology lately, and NDreams is one of them. And so again, people are getting sick of the short experiences, the short games. But I think if there's one studio that has it in them to really put everything they've learned into one big game, I think it's them.
I agree.
Which brings us to an interesting inclusion on this list, man. This is a very interesting inclusion, and if it wasn't for their last game, they wouldn't be anywhere near this list, and that's Sinn Studio. You and I both know firsthand that Sinn Studio kind of had a rough go at it at the beginning. They brought us Wraith, which was a horror shooter. They brought us The Perfect Sniper, which was very short, I guess, narrative-driven shooting game. I mean, and then the absolute atrocity that was Warzone, first-person shooter, which I'm sure on PC was bad, but when they brought it to PlayStation VR, it was a multiplayer game, and they stripped out the multiplayer when they brought it to PlayStation VR. And lucky for them, they called it Warzone, which is essentially the video game equivalent of clickbait. And so it sold a fucking shitload of copies because I'm sure people thought they were buying a Call of Duty game, and it turned out not to be. So luckily, Sinn Studio made a ton of money off of a really crappy game and was finally able to bring us Swordsman. I don't know if I'm happy with the way they got here, but they're here now. And I do have a lot of faith in them for next gen. Wes, take over while I look for a good trailer to play. We can't keep watching this Phantom Covert Ops thing.
Okay, well, the main thing that pops into my mind when I think about Swordsman, And then when I think about Sinn Studio, first of all, uh, we already kind of talked about how these studios, the good ones anyway, tend to get better as they go along. And they've certainly done that. And they've, made a lot of mistakes, clearly, but obviously they learn from their mistakes. And when I think about Swordsman and why it continues to be one of the more popular titles, especially among PSVR players, it's that they've taken this kind of Hello Games approach to development, where the development cycle never stops. This game continues to improve. They continue to update it, and even when they've got an unabashed hit on their hands that is pretty much universally loved, they're still not afraid to basically overhaul the whole thing and still make it better. So I think, if for no other reason other than that, we can be confident that whatever comes from Sinn Studio next generation is going to be good, even if it's so at launch. It'll get better, and it'll get better, and it'll get better, and it'll eventually be very, very good. So that's really kind of my take on Sinn Studios. Like, I couldn't believe when Swordsman launched that based on their previous work, but obviously you had the right thing in mind, because it turned out all for the best, huh?
I mean, it turned out all for the best, but I mean,
Are you frozen, Brian? I think you're frozen in my Discord here.
Oh no, you're frozen in my Discord. Oh, you popped back up.
Well, you're frozen in my Discord.
Am I unfrozen now? Am I unfrozen?
You're choppy, but yeah, I can hear you. Did you at least keep my audio? Did you hear what I said?
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens, because if it was, I don't know, maybe if my internet was having a rough spot, then maybe everyone didn't see what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So are we back? Before I do all that again, can I say, are we back?
Yeah, I think we're back, guys. Everybody good in the chat. Everybody happy here. Always a tough call.
So the basic gist of what I had to say, without going through it all again, is that I think that Sinn Studio will be successful in the next gen, because they've taken this Hello Games sort of approach to development, where they're continually improving. And that's the thing I think about when I think about Swordsman, is constant updates. And even though they've already got a pretty big hit on their hands with regards to the hardcore PSVR players, they're not afraid to overhaul it in the name of improvement. And I think that whatever we get from them next gen, whether it's like the greatest thing on earth when it launches or not, I think it's eventually going to get there, based on the lessons that they've learned in the first gen.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't know if you said during your second time, but during your first time, you said you gave that Parole credit for giving Swordsman a lot of coverage, despite the fact that
that's true.
Everything leading up to it, but that was just because I try to cover everything, and I was hopeful for Warzone. I was like, oh man, like any first person shooter that looks halfway decent, that uses the aim controller, this is going to be fun, and so I did. I did exactly the same thing for Warzone, and it just turned out to be a really crappy game. So that being besides the point, what gives me faith with Sinn Studio is exactly what you said. Comparing it to Hello Games is about the closest thing you can do. Not so much because of quality, but because of their commitment. And I do think Swordsman was fine at launch. I gave it a 7 out of 10, and maybe that was generous. But over the course of the last year or whatever it's been, they have those nonstop updates have been nothing short of game changing, and then to the point where they're still doing like massive overhauls. The fact that they're going to do this, that they're working on this motion capture thing, the fact that they're working on predictive AIs for your opponents, so that the whole game just has like a different feel to it. Again, changing something that people are already very happy with. So it's because of that, and it's because of their commitment to their first real success that I have a lot of faith in what they're doing. But also because I think that Alec and his team, which is growing, again, because of the sales of Warzone, but more specifically, Swordsman, I think they, I want to be very clear because I feel like I'm friends with Alec and he's been on the show multiple times, but I don't want to speak for him. I'm very much speculating here, so I don't want to say anything that makes it sound like, oh, I know what they're doing, because that's not what I'm going for at all. But I think that they're in the same boat that we are. When we play Swordsman, we think, man, these sword fighting mechanics are really good. But how amazing would this be in a much bigger game? Like, let's take this and let's use it. And like, let's find it. Let's place ourselves in a town where we have, where we have shops where we can buy items, and then we can, like, let's do a pretend JRPG style thing here, right? Here's your village, and then you walk out into the open world or a dungeon, and now suddenly those sword fighting mechanics come into play, right? And so I think everyone who plays Swordsman is thinking the same thing. They're like, I can't wait till VR games incorporate what they did really well here into a much bigger, fleshed out game. And in my head, the team over at Sinn Studio is thinking the same thing. And I think that's where they should be with PSVR2. Take what works really well in their current games and just blow it wide open.
I absolutely, wholeheartedly agree with this, because to be quite honest, arena-based melee is not my thing. Like, I'm not into blade and sorcery. I'm not really into swordsman, or I'm not into Swords of Gargantua, any of that stuff, because, what I like about VR is I like adventure. I like story. And, swordsman really benefited from the fact that there are no really other games like it in the PSVR catalog, but at the same time, there are no games like the one you just described in that catalog either. So I think that if they want to stick with melee, if they want to keep going down this road, I think an adventure game is the obvious choice, because even though there's no blade and sorcery on PSVR, there's also no Asgard's Wrath. There's no Vengeful Rites. There is no melee adventure on PSVR. 5 years in, or whatever it is, and I think that's a very obvious path for them to take. And clearly, they have the the know-how to get started on a game like that. And I'm excited for. There's not many of those games, period, in the overall VR catalog, and it's PSVR catalog definitely sorely lacking something like that. So I hope you're right there.
I hope I'm right there too. We've got Waleed is now a Gamecast, specifically a White Tiger, rare with a Canadian $5 tip in the chat. Says, I work in taxation. Busy season is February to May. I hope PSVR 2 launches in Q4 22 and not Q1. Casual families who buy VR in Q4 might skip PSVR 2. Can't wait. Casual families who might buy VR Q2 might skip PSVR 2. Anything's possible. that was a weird, strangely written tip, though. I had to read it 3 times.
I think what he's trying to say is that he would like PSVR 2 to get out there before everyone spends their money on Christmas, and I kind of agree with that. It's one of the things that really surprised me about your announcement of the time frame, going in the next year. It seems like, well, we don't need to do that whole conversation again, but I was very surprised for a very similar reasoning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and selfishly, I just want it now. So, screw waiting until Q4. Why isn't it out now, Sony? Like, fucking deliver it. I don't care if there's one game available. I'll take it. I don't care if I can only play my old games on it. I'll take it. This isn't a tip, but I do want to address it. PS5 4K gameplay said, I don't think we need 3 Gamescasts per week until PSVR 2. I'm so burned out on Gamescasts. I appreciate the honesty, bud. I really do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to tell you the same thing I keep telling everyone else, and the same thing I keep telling AJ and Wes and everybody. I agree with you. I don't think we need 3 Gamescasts per week. But what I will say is that, like, this for me is practice. Everything I'm doing right now is practice. When I do reviews right now, it's practice. I'm trying to streamline the way I do things. I'm trying to get better at the way I do everything. And basically, because I think when PSVR 2 hits, it's like I got to be ready. And so doing these Gamescasts 3 days a week is sort of practice and making sure that my schedule accommodates these things and getting better at being able to do them without preparing all too much. And so my suggestion is, if you're burnt out on Gamescast, don't watch them all. and I and I know it's like, very a very poor marketing on my part. But really, man, it's like, yeah, 3 days a week, man. We're not the only YouTube channel out there, so I can totally understand if it's a lot of content to take in. So don't you worry, I'm right there with you. Wes,
Yeah, Brian's very good about putting the episode's contents right there in the title line. So real easy to pick and choose.
and you can wait till not watch them live, and because when Sci-Fi GameCat Henry sends me the timestamps, then you can just like kind of jump through and like see the 5-second part that you wanted. But again, I really do appreciate the honesty, man. Like that doesn't hurt my feelings. I promise you, I'm right there with you. We just want to be better for when the shit hits the fan, Wes, we've got a very interesting list of studios to still go through. And I say, if you don't mind sticking around for a few extra minutes today, I say we try to get through quite a few more of them, but we streamline the process a little bit. You want to go through a few more?
Yeah, do it. Yeah, let's do a quick stop. I'm down for another hour. That's not the thing, but yeah, let's hit it. There's a lot to talk about here.
All right, man. Well, then why don't you bring up the next one, because this one is all you. I don't think I was even familiar with the studio other than the game that we all know that they made.
Well, the next studio that I want to talk about is a brand new studio, and I can say unequivocally that the project that they are working on, while true, it's not confirmed to be in VR yet, is probably the single most exciting thing in video games to me right now. And I'm talking about Eyes Out Studio. So who are these guys? Why am I so excited about Eyes Out Studio? Well, those of you who have been following me for some time know that one of my very favorite PlayStation VR games was Here They Lie. Pretty sure Here They Lie was a launch title. If not, it was right around there.
It was.
And I look at that game as a piece of art. There's a lot of meaning in it. It's very dark. I love horror games. It's a very dark game. It's a gritty look at human nature, and it's masterfully done too. But the way they do it, it's like there's like tons of like violence and implied like I don't know how to put it. There's a lot of things that you wouldn't think that you would find on the Sony store in that game.
It's pretty
perverted. But they did a very good.
It feels
fucked
up to play. You question you question yourself a little bit while you're playing it. You're like, wait, why does that work for me? Maybe just me. Maybe not everybody. But at some points, I'm like, this is supposed to be disturbing, and I'm kind of turned on.
yeah. But they do such a masterful job of walking that line to where it's just tame enough that it's acceptable for Sony to put on their store, and not only put on their store, but promote it as a launch title, Anyway, Eyes Out Studio is a brand new studio that's headed up by the creator of Here They Lie. The person who dreamt up all this fucked up stuff is the head of Eyes Out Studio. And if you go to their website and you look at their team, most of their team worked on Here They Lie, but there's one very notable exception, and that is his partner, the co-head of the studio, Robin Fink, who is a guitar player. He plays guitar now for Nine Inch Nails, but in the past, he I think it was with Guns N' Roses for a while. A very well-known musician, and they're talking about making different kinds of horror games, a new kind of horror game that's very immersive, very audio centric. And I'm trying to find the quote here.
I mean, I just went to the website as you were talking about it, and the co-creator, not the Nine Inch Nails guy, the other guy was involved in Spec Ops: The Line, which
that's right,
amazing story. What appears to be a generic military shooter on PS3 turned out to be anything but. Like what an amazingly well told story, and really disturbing as well. So these guys have some pedigree, man.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And I do have a quote here. This is from an Engadget article where they talked to Corey, Mr. Davis, when they announced the studio. He says, we want to create mind-bending experiences that cause you to question reality. That's what we're really excited about. We're all fans of horror, but specifically this kind of, it's a new and emerging space that doesn't just sit within the extremely violent and dark and terrifying, but also reaches into the vibrant and even surprises you with moments of bliss or self-reflection. Horror has a lot of room to grow. And when I hear talk like this, Brian, I just get so excited because I agree. I've been saying all this stuff for many years, only I'm not a game developer. I can't make games, but these guys are experts at it. And I just couldn't be more excited for this.
Yeah, and everybody in the chat agrees with you, and is also a little concerned about me now from what I said, which is totally understandable. But yeah, this is absolutely the kind of shit, the kind of people I want making my VR games, because it's it's horror games. There's Paranormal Activity and Don't Knock Twice, and it's like that is fucking pretty straightforward horror, but it really doesn't hold a candle to the kind of things that Here They Lie did, and so that there's just an enormous level of creativity and even the way the world is presented in like monochromatic color scheme or lack of color scheme, I believe. And then this first time you see red in that game, because you're so used to walking around in this sepia tone world that the first time you see red, you're like, whoa. I mean, it stands the fuck out. And these are just like small things. Never mind like all the crazy effects that they used to really like screw with your perspective. These guys just know that they understand horror in a very much more cerebral way, I think, than a lot of people making horror games. So yeah, whatever they make next, I'm going to be paying close attention to for sure.
Yeah, the control scheme is pretty horrible. It's a blurry mess. It's nausea inducing, and it's absolutely one of my favorite games. I love it so much. I've probably finished that game more than any other in the PSVR library, with the exception of maybe Rush of Blood, which I've played a whole lot. But I love Here They Lie, and I could talk about it all day. Some of the small nuances that a lot of people miss. I mean, there's a lot of stuff right there that smacks you in the face, but there's a lot of hidden meaning. There's a lot of hidden details in the world that a lot of people just gloss over because of the stuff that smacks you in the face, and it's just so shocking that you kind of just skim over the small details. You don't see what's happening in the shadows so much when you have a dog lady right in your face trying to have sex with you or murder the zebra man,
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. You guys are great. Wally is now a Gamecast, specifically White Tiger with the Canadian $2 tip, says, love the 3 Gamescast as long as Brian is okay. Well, I'm never going to be okay, but thank you so much for the concern. I do appreciate that. A lot of support in the chat for the 3 Gamescast, by the way. So glad to see that.
Will says we need 4.
Will just wants his own spot, man. Because he knows if I add a 4th show, he's going to have to come on and be my 4th co-host. So I think there's an underlying reason for all that. Dude, yeah, we just said we need to kind of speed this along, and I don't know if we're being successful at that. Interestingly, the next developer we have on the list is White Moon Dreams, who I think most people will know from Starblood Arena, maybe only. But the fact is they've done so much more than that. And they actually you added them to this list, even though I did an entire video called "The Secret Heroes of PSVR," focusing all on White Moon Dreams. These guys made games. The Starblood Arena was way ahead of its time. We just need to get that out there. Starblood Arena is way ahead of its time. The fact that like it really allowed you to fly around these arenas and just kind of like weave in and out of the environment and spin on every axis. And they obviously gave you motion sickness like options, comfort settings, but they've really made a game for people who wanted to just be crazy in VR and kind of just fly around and lose their shit and kind of throw caution to the wind. This game was perfect for that. It's as close as we've gotten to a Twisted Metal in VR. And again, that's a game we've been asking for since day one. And we got it, but it was too early, I think. It was too early, launched with a few problems. And if it had launched maybe a year or two later, I think we'd still be playing this game. I think it'd be one of the best multiplayer games on the platform. But it was just too early, and there weren't enough users, and I don't think it sold enough. And Sony shut down the servers, again, way too early, even after I believe they gave it away as a Plus game. So we thought there was going to be a second chance, but it never got that second chance. So as a developer, this is the game that people know about, but there's so much more than that. I'm sort of throwing it over to you, but I don't know where your knowledge base is on this.
I can't speak on that. I will say that most multiplayer games in Gen 1 VR were ahead of their time. The VR marketplace largely hasn't been large enough to support a big multiplayer experience. I mean, we do obviously have exceptions, Firewall being chief among them. But most multiplayer games, I mean, there hasn't been the market to sustain the server costs, or for lack of a better term. But I added this to the list based solely on the tragedy that is Starblood Arena and the fact that it got removed. And I would have. They could have left single player open, man, and you could play against bots. I mean, that would have been something. But I completely agree with everything that you said there. And when I start to think about what these guys could do with Tempest 3D audio tech, with the haptics, with the HDR screens, with the eye tracking, with all the next gen stuff, and now a marketplace that's capable of supporting a multiplayer game. To be quite honest, I want a sequel. Like most of these studios, I'm down with them doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
With White Moon Dreams specifically, I want Starblood Arena to come back in a big way now that the market has caught up to what they're selling.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's a whole element of interactivity that they could add to Starblood Arena. Where before it's like, yeah, if you had a HOTAS, great. If you had if you're using a DualShock, great. But I really do think that with the Sense controllers, I mean, how much cooler would it be piloting these ships in zero gravity and actually having to pull the thruster, hit this button to fire, lock on with this button over here, and be actually reaching out and like No Man's Sky, but blow No Man's Sky out of the water and really feel as though you have full control over your ship. There's so many possibilities that they have with this game alone. But just to add to that, these guys are super talented. Like, these guys don't get the credit they deserve because what they do is a lot of it is behind the scenes, where they're Sony goes, hey, go help Pixel Opus out because they're trying to get their Concrete Genie PSVR mode done. And so White Moon Dreams steps in and goes, hey, let's help you out. Apparently no one else was able to port Saints and Sinners to PlayStation VR in the time that it needed to be done in. White Moon Dreams steps in, they port the entire thing over, like 90% of it was all White Moon Dreams, and then they hand it back to Skydance Interactive with about 10% left to go. Here you go, like we got you almost all the way there. No splash screen. They didn't take the credit for it. But he's like, but these guys are super duper talented, and we give a lot of credit to Saints and Sinners as being one of the best VR games on PlayStation VR, or one of the best VR games, period. Obviously, Skydance made the game, but it's no easy task, as we've heard from a lot of developers, making these things work with the PlayStation Move controllers. But yet here we are. It's like, everything seems to work the way it's supposed to. Good job, guys. I feel like these guys have been, quietly helping all of these flat screen games and VR games and just doing a lot of stuff without getting a lot of credit for it, and sort of waiting in the wings for their turn to really take center stage again. And whether it be a Starblood revival, whether it be a brand new IP, they were making a game on PlayStation VR 1 after Starblood that was very much like a Metroid Prime style first person shooter that never saw the light of day because they couldn't get funding for it. No one was biting, and so we never saw the results of that. So a lot of talented people over there, and I think PSVR 2 will be their turn to shine.
I agree with that, and I had no idea about any of that stuff that you just said. That I'm even more amazed now and excited for what's coming next from them. That they're going to be showing up in a big way for PSVR 2. Now that I'm educated, I'm even more excited.
Hey, listen, man, you taught me something today, and I taught you something today, so I call that a good day overall. How do you feel about you picking the final team from this list to talk about, and we need to be super clear on this. We have like 10 more studios that we want to talk about, but we are going way over our time. And we can always do a part 2 on this if this is something that everybody wants to see us talk about more.
Well, a couple of things. One, that's a great way to cop out. So like now they don't know who was on the list and who wasn't on the list.
Yep.
So I love it. But secondly, how the hell do I pick, man? How the hell do I pick? I can see like, I mean, I need to talk about most of them. Yeah, maybe we need to part 2 this at some point.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Electric Hat Games because I feel like this team doesn't get the respect that they deserve, not only within the PSVR community, but outside it as well. I feel like To the Top is one of the best games in VR today in 2022. And no, it's not like super graphically intensive or anything like that, but they nailed the gameplay so well in this that it's an evergreen title. You can pick this up anytime and have a blast on any platform with your friends. There's a ton of content. There's a ton of levels. The music, the soundtrack is amazing. I mean, it's one of the best titles in VR. And I happen to know that they've been working on a follow-up for a long time. So I can't wait to see what's coming next from Electric Hat Games. And if they would like to hit me up and show me, I would very much appreciate it.
Spoilers, their follow-up involves... Dan's going to hate me so much for saying this. A dragon. What? Yeah, no.
What?
Well, I feel very fortunate that Dan is a member of our Discord community and hangs out with me in voice chat. We waste hours of every day together hanging out and shooting the shit and talking. And so I've been privy to see the follow-up to the Top, and it's looking like he's improved on every element. I think one of the things, as you already said, is it doesn't exactly. It's not the prettiest game. Like it gets the job done and it looks okay, but it's certainly not what people talk about when they talk about To the Top. It's a little on the bland side. And one of the first things I said when I saw Super Kit was, wow, I love the art direction. Like I really like the way that they use colors in a much better way. You look at this trailer and you're like, oh, there's a lot of blues and browns in this. Not great. But the kind of like Neo Tokyo setting, which I don't know if that's accurate, of the sequel is much more appealing. And there is a dragon game, but that's more of a half running joke. And if Dan is in the chat, maybe he can elaborate on that. There he is. He says, "Brian, I hate you. What's up, Cerebral Frost?" Yep.
Well, I'll say this. It was about a year and a half ago. I had a friend share with me about 30 seconds of this follow-up to Super Hot.
Yeah.
And I, obviously I can't say where I saw this at, but it looked amazing, but 2, I did not see any dragons. So
no,
I don't know. That's a new one on me.
No, it's again, apologies to Dan, but it's sort of a side project that derailed Super Kid a little bit. We've got Emily Baxter, hashtag the Cartoony Witch Game Kitten in the chat with a $2 tip. Says, cartoony games suck. Now the show is complete. I had no idea. Let me ask you this. So I think with a lot of the studios we talked about so far, Wes, we've pointed to the things that they've done really well and kind of how those things can be adapted for next-gen games. Now, if we look beyond the To the Top follow-up, we look beyond the Dragon game, what do you want to see Electric Hat Games do?
What do I want? I mean,
they're not
honestly,
the kind of studio, like you're not looking to them to be like, we need a narrative driven third person adventure from you guys, obviously. Like where do you think they take this?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm not the artist here, so I don't know where they're going to take it. Mm-hmm. I would hope that we see something very similar to the Top. I would hope that we see, the obvious things, right? The things I love. I'd like to see a story involved. I'd like to see a campaign. I'd like to see enemies, weapons. I mean, there's so much. To the Top
weapons
is a great canvas for them to paint an epic game on top of, right? Whereas Gen 1 VR was kind of known for tech demos. I think that they can take the tech demo that is To the Top and build an amazing game with very similar mechanics to that. And that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see an action adventure game from them, which uses that kind of parkour game mechanics and vertical level creation, in tandem with weapons, enemies, story, all the things that I love about video games. And I think that they're absolutely capable of doing that.
Yeah, To the Top is probably, I mean, potentially better than Windlands 2 when it comes to like first person platforming in VR. It's sort of the epitome of like kind of where I want that genre to go in first person. And so enemies and power ups and anything else you can think of that is an essential part of platforming, I would like to see as well. Yeah. I'm with you, man.
I put it over Windlands. I put it over Stride. I think it's better than both of those in that aspect,
Cerebral Frost is saying, who's Dan from Electric Hat Games? Again, thank you. Saying, Dan, let me ask you this. He said, I sent you a link to the next trailer in Discord. You can run it if you'd like. So we could actually be showing the stuff. Is this the same one you already sent me, Dan? Because if it is, I think I have it at the ready. But I don't know for sure.
For the record, Dan, when I picked your studio, I did not know that you were such a active member of this community and that you were going to be throwing trailers at us. So nice to meet you. Glad you're here.
Yeah, you know what? It's the same one. Okay. Crap. Yeah, I don't think I... Here, let me just switch over to the hold screen for 1 second so I can kind of navigate Discord a little bit easier. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go over here.
Let's while you're doing that, we can interact with the chat a little bit, which is something I've been terrible at since I came over here. RUR is history says, are we going to get Rickrolled? I allowed myself to get, whoa, there's some sound. I allowed myself to get Rickrolled on April 1st. Intentionally. I knew it was coming, but that friggin' song stayed in my head for 3 days after that. It was the biggest regret of my life.
That's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Okay, I see why I've got sound in my ear. I've got a commercial running on YouTube.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, sound is one of those fascinating things that when you're doing a live stream, you're like, can you guys hear this? Can you not hear this? I have no idea.
Voices in my head.
For sure. Okay, let's see. It looks like I got the link. It's downloading. So far so good.
Awesome.
Now the question is again, just like live streams are always so much fun, especially on the spot, is if you guys are going to be able to hear this when I bring it up.
So, Time to Play with Gamecast says Windlands 2 is amazing fun, and it absolutely is. And I think Windlands 2 kind of went in the direction from Windlands 1 that I want to see the To the Top follow-up take from To the Top. You know what I'm saying? I want to see a lot of that same sort of thing with the levels growing out, story involved, enemies, weapons. Keep the co-op, although I think that the matchmaking in the original To the Top left a little something to be desired. Sometimes it's hard to find your friends in there.
Wes, we're going to give this a shot. Okay, so everybody cross your fingers. We may right now be debuting the follow-up to the Top called Super Kit To the Top. Let's see if this works. Fingers crossed, everyone.
Let's do it.
Here we go now.
I mean, everything you want from a sequel, as far as I'm concerned, man. Again, comparing it to the trailer that's running right here, I think beautiful art design, and but yeah, I think this is going to be a whole lot of fun, man.
This looks incredible. This is way past anything. I said I saw it a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
This is way beyond anything I saw back then. And it looks like everything that I want. Man, that's incredible. I'm so hyped now. We're making news, Brian. This is what I told you, man. We're making news. It's awesome. Who needs Ruth Bram to get their gaming news? You know, we got the scoop here, right?
Yeah, we got Tiff in here too, man. Like, send us some Walking Dead shit. You got to be competitive, right? You can't let Electric Hat have the whole spotlight all to himself. But no, so thank you very much, Dan, for letting us kind of debut that unexpectedly. It was a lot of fun, and it does. I mean, look at this; it looks so good, falling from those kind of heights. The sense of scale, the sense of height, like just. That's something that To the Top always nailed, and to see that it's doing it again in here with enemies, with combat, with a much better art design. Yeah, it's everything I want from a sequel too.
Dude, it looks like a friggin' Ratchet and Clank game, doesn't it? I mean, the art design is beautiful.
Yeah, yep. Give our love to Shua, Dan, because she was killing it. Dude, you know what time it is?
It is time to play 20 questions, I would assume.
It's definitely time to play 20 questions. We're only about 30 minutes past where we should be, but that's okay. Yeah, right. No, man, I'm a talker. Wes is a talker, and Wednesdays might be the day that we go along, for sure. If you guys don't know, every single episode of Gamescast, 3 days a week, even though that's too much for some of you, we play PSVR 20 questions, and we put 6 minutes up on the clock up on the counter the way that Jeremy likes it, and one of us takes the role of host. That's that guy over there. It's Wes. He's the host this time, and I'm going to have 20 questions to figure out what game he's thinking of, and I need all the help I can get in the chat. I'm going to bring up the clock. Wes, are you ready?
I am ready.
I'm not, man. I'm never ready for this shit. I don't know how I ever get it right.
You got this, bro. You got this, bro. It was softball for sure.
Softball. I like it. Does it have aim support?
It does not have aim support.
Okay, I'm making no column. No aim. Does it have? Would you consider it a puzzle game?
No, not a puzzle game.
Okay. Is there a lot of shooting in this game?
Yeah, there is a lot of shooting in this game, I would say. Yes.
Okay. Does it have full locomotion in the sense that you have full control over where you're moving and full actual locomotion as well? I don't know. I'm just saying, in my head, I'm thinking Blood and Truth, and I wouldn't consider that full locomotion. That's like node to node locomotion or something.
When you're playing this game, there are no locomotion options that you wish for. I would call it full for the type of game it is.
You'd call it full locomotion.
I would call it full locomotion for the type of game that it is.
Okay. I think I know where we're going here. Is this game on rails?
No, this game is no, the game's not on rails. I mean, you do get a move. You're not locked in.
Okay. Flame Hat. I'd love to ask if it has a platinum trophy, but that's the ones that don't.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Did this game? Does this game? Is there? Do you do any climbing in this game?
No.
No climbing.
And I want to revisit the on rails thing too, because I mean, in a way, it kind of is, but you have control. I don't know. I wouldn't call it like a rail shooter in that sense, but it is very linear. We'll say that.
Is this game? I know you don't know our top 25 list specifically, but is this the kind of game that would definitely be in consideration for a top 25 list?
I wouldn't say definitely. I'd say it's likely been on past top 25 list. I would say that I constantly yell at my screen that this game should be on a top 25 list, but no, I would say this is one that you guys miss pretty frequently.
Nice. Okay, so great game, seldom top 25. These hints are not going to help me. Okay, I need to look at the chat. You guys are gonna. Is this tied to an IP at all? Like an existing IP?
Not really. No, I wouldn't say so. No, no. You'll understand the confusion with that after we get to the end. But
Okay.
no, I wouldn't say that there's been any other known franchises built around this IP. But it depends on who you ask.
Has this developer made other PSVR games?
They absolutely have.
They have. Okay, guys, here's what we know so far. There's definitely some shooting in this. It's sort of full locomotion, but there's definitely some confusion around that. These guys have made other PSVR games. It doesn't use the aim. It's not a puzzle game. It's not on rails. Again, I feel like there's going to be explanations there. It's a great game that we don't always get in our top 25 list, and it's not based on an existing IP.
That's right. There's a few people out there who say it is, but those people are incorrect. There's no proof of that.
Was this game made by Survios? Good question.
It was not.
Can't be I Expect You to Die. That's a super puzzle game, Betty. Good question, though. Is there any multiplayer in this game? Good question, Betty.
There is not.
No multiplayer. Uh-oh. No multiplayer. Is it... there's a lot of shooting, so I don't think it would be Theseus, Genetic Blasphemy. Is this a remake of an existing game?
Again, like before, it would depend on who you ask, but I would say no. There's no proof of that.
Is this a stealth game?
Not at all.
Crap, I'm running out of time and probably questions.
You have you've 13, so 6 and a guess.
Is there? Do you control any vehicles in this game?
You do.
Whoa. Okay. Is it DualShock only?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. 2 seconds. Shit.
Forget the clock. Take the rest of your questions.
Is there a rhythm element to this game?
There is not. It's got a banging soundtrack though.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I gotta throw in the towel.
Chat has it.
The chat has it.
Chat. Some people in the chat have it.
I keep seeing Archangel in the chat, but that is 100% on rails.
Yeah, that is on rails. That's correct.
They're yelling at me.
They
Can't
are.
be Res Infinite. There's no rhythm part of it. Oh, I'm totally missing, obviously.
That's right.
Everyone's saying Archangel. Battlezone. Is it? But Battlezone has multiplayer. I don't know, man. Just tell me. The chat obviously got it before I did. Tell me what it is. What is it?
It is Polybius, Brian Paul.
my
Polybius. Polybius, most people would class it as a shooter.
Yep.
Although you're constantly shooting, but it's not about the shooting at all. It's about concentration and focus. It's about your path. Is it based on an existing IP? Is it based on another title?
Yep.
Kind of a mythical title called Polybius, but there's no proof of that. It's kind of on rails, but not really. I mean, you can move around. There's no lack of locomotion. I mean, you can move in any direction you feel like you should be able to.
I went through all the questions I asked you. I went through all the answers, and I have no objection. Unfortunately, I can't try to weasel my way out of this loss.
And it absolutely is a top 25 PlayStation VR title that you guys miss constantly. I love that game. It's so good.
One of these days, and maybe one of the next top 25 lists we do, maybe the next top 25 list we do, we need to get you on it so that you can see just how difficult it is, because the number of games I am so mad about that don't make the list every single time. There's easily 10 to 20 games every single time that I'm like, how did this not make the list? How did this not make the list? Yeah. I want you to come to the table with Polybius on your list and see how difficult it is to get it on there.
Absolutely will.
Nice.
Polybius will be on there. To the Top will be on there. Catch and Release will not be on there. Pinball will not be on there. Corix will not be on there.
No, I mean, that's ridiculous. I love Corix as much as the next guy, but that's not a top 25 game. Although, with you here, I can probably get quite a few more horror games on my list.
Oh, absolutely. It depends. It depends. If we're doing top 25, my favorite top 25, absolutely. Yeah. But I think you guys do kind of like we do, where you know, your favorites are part of the equation, but you also want to take into account what's popular, what's palatable to new players, stuff like that. So like for example, I would never have Beat Saber on my top 25, my personal top 25, but I understand that Beat Saber is a big gateway drug for a lot of people, and it plays an important role. So it probably would need to be in the top 25.
Yep.
It's just not for me,
Thank you guys so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate everyone who hung out, who donated, oh, you know what? I was just going to say, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I think there was one more tip, and there was all the way back with Genetic Blasphemy, the abbreviated Dreams Cat with the $5 tip says, you'll have to change the stream title to include that trailer. Great conversation, great trailer. Now I'm just filling up space. Doot-de-doo. Hi, cats. That was a great tip. Thank you to everybody. Yeah, I may have to change the name of, or maybe we just keep it a secret. We say, hey guys, like word of mouth style, make people watch Gamescast to see that occasionally there's some cool shit hidden here, but we'll see what happens. But thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you to all the cats out there who donated. Thank you to everybody who participated in the chat, who tried to help me with 20 questions, even though I failed to listen, apparently. I'm so sorry. I suck at this. And of course to Wes. Make sure you subscribe to Wes over at Virtual Strangers. Shout out to Sci-Fi Game Cat Henry, who does all the timestamps for this. Jay Meow, who gets this show each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, even though it's too much for some, up on podcast services of your choice. And of course, to all the moderators who make my life infinitely easier every single day, not just over here, but on Discord. Sign up for Discord, click the link in the description below, and join Professor Lilith's Sunday multiplayer meetups, because you want to. I know I want to. Wes,
everybody wants to do it with other people.
I got to ask you a serious question before we end the show. I feel like cueing the cat, as adorable as that cat is very much an AJ thing. And so I think we need to come up with new ways to end the show on Wednesdays, Wes-days and Fridays, and then and let AJ cue the cat every Monday.
I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly.
Excellent. So for the first time in a very, very long time, we're just going to end the show without cueing the cat. And I apologize to Alberto Mapam El Game Gato. But thank you guys so much.
He'll adjust.
He'll be fine. We'll get to it, man. We're gonna find new inside jokes and all sorts of shit. But guys, thank you everybody. We really appreciate you. Even the ones who sat back and watched the show didn't say a goddamn word. We know you're out there and we love you just as much. Blink.
Absolutely. We love you. Bye.
The chat can't handle it. The chat can't handle it. Everyone's like, wait, what do we do without
know
killing the
it.
cat? Oh my God. This is insanity.
We've thrown the force out of balance, right?
We've thrown the force out of, dude. And everyone's like, oh, we're just going to only watch we're only going to watch Mondays from now on. We can't handle this.
Well, I mean, if they do that, they're going to miss out on cool shit like the new trailers for upcoming sequels.
Like new trailers for upcoming sequels. Good night, everybody.
I mean, that turned out pretty well, right? I mean, that turned out about as well as that conversation could have turned out. We got to break news. That's pretty awesome.
That's right. Good night, everybody. We love you all.